Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining our K8s and Cloud Native Mixer today. We host these mixers once a quarter, so if you like this one, we look forward to seeing you in the new year. My name is Mike Foster. I'm a Cloud Native advocate at StackRox, and I just want to go through a few housekeeping items before we get started today. If you see the platform, if you have any general issues about the platform, you can find help in the top left corner. There's a little help desk table where somebody's standing by for you. Any questions about any of these sessions, there's a Q&A box where people will respond as soon as possible. And there's also a general chat. So if you want to start a discussion, throw some comments in there and you'll see some people comment back, and we look forward to hearing from you. That's all the housekeeping items I have for you today. Let's just get into the panel. We're going to start, again, I'm Mike Foster, and I'm going to go to my left.
Hi, I'm Jessica Cherry. I work as an SRE with Elastic on the cloud side.
Going down.
Down.
Awesome. I'm Jonah Jones. I'm a solutions architect for containers at AWS, mostly working with the ISV side, so software vendors like StackRox.
I presume I'm the last one. So hello, everyone. My name is Katie Gamanji, and I am an ecosystem advocate for CNCF. I have started quite recently in the role, but my main responsibility is to make sure that there is a healthy end user community that is collaborating with the project maintainers.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on, everyone. Let's just get into it. Since it's the end of the year and it's a wrap up, I want to start off with just some general trends. Katie, hopefully you can start off. What did you see this year, just as a high level theme?
I think overall in the community, there have been quite a few new trends, I think, which emerged and maybe fortified and gained a bit more ground from the end user companies specifically, because it's all about the usage of tooling in a particular or in an organization. It's not just about the tool, it's about the usage as well. I think there has been quite a good resume of the tools that have been emerged during KubeCon, so definitely recommend to watch some of the sessions which are on YouTube today. And in terms of things that really picked up my interest and something that I've been advocating for quite heavily has been GitOps as well. I have been working quite closely with Argo CD tool, presenting that in the cluster API context. And I'm more excited actually that Flux, or the team that manages Flux, which is Weaveworks, they have initiated a GitOps working group. And this is actually a very big step because I think everyone kind of used GitOps in one way, shape, or form. However, it's all about how can we use it in terms of automating the infrastructure. It's not just about delivering, but it's how do we manage our infrastructure hands off. And having this kind of working group, their main, I think, responsibility or their main task that they want to take on board is to create a manifesto. So it's all about best practices, principles, and guidelines that the community could use, so it's easier for them to adopt a tool such as Flux or Argo CD as well. And overall, I'm actually quite excited to see this, as mentioned, getting ground and getting a bit more fortified as a tool and as a principle.
Yeah, I definitely saw an overall theme kind of end user and especially education towards the community this year. Jonah, any thoughts on that as well?
Yeah, definitely. We work really closely with Weaves at AWS, and we also are kind of doubling down on the GitOps. Our GM of Kubernetes, Bob Wise, believes that GitOps is the future, and so we're definitely heavily investing in that. It is tough, I think, because just like getting enterprises to adopt it definitely has some limitations, right? Sometimes it feels like you're putting the square peg in the circle of hole where you already have everything in place and you have to readjust your file structure to make it work. But the customers who actually get it working love it, and like they never have issues. And so that's what we like to hear.
Yeah, no kidding. And I mean, Jessica, as an SRE, I'm sure you're working hands-on with all different parts of the stack. So curious to see what your thoughts are.
Personally, this year, the massive security push and just the extension of the APIs. This is great moving forward. I know there was a slow start to security in the beginning of Kubernetes, and now knowing that we're going full speed and working towards more security, more reliability behind what we can and can't do coming in and coming out, which is, I've been through one or two moments where that has been really important and have not had as much education behind it, which is why I'm glad they're pushing more towards education just in general this year. So that was great.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've worked with some enterprises who don't adopt Kubernetes because the first question is like, how the hell do we know this thing's secure? And there's no real education towards that. So I completely agree. I'm very happy moving towards that. Actually, throwing it back to you, Jessica, because with the Docker deprecation announcement, I'm curious what your thoughts are on some of the ramifications for the company with something like that.
So, in this particular thing is seeing everybody panic, and the panic was kind of unneeded, right? So all of your enterprise Kubernetes is already using Containerd. So Docker really will affect someone who's, let's say, using Minikube at home as like a driver, but there was a lot of pieces that Docker had that was just kind of overrunning the systems themselves. Like, you don't need the GUI layer that we have with Docker right now. And I thought it was just a tad bit too much panic. A lot of it's already going to be set up for you and worked out. I thoroughly enjoy the idea of us moving to a more slimmed down, let's get this moving really fast, kind of DevOpsy move forward thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Jonah, AWS, you guys released Bottle Rocket, I believe, right, in September, beginning of September. So I can already kind of see that push towards a more container-focused operating system, more secure. I think it uses Cryo, I believe, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Are you seeing any adoption trends with Bottle Rocket?
We are seeing customers use Bottle Rocket. One of the hard things, and I previously was an SRE before I was at AWS, and so like the lack of kind of debug tools in Bottle Rocket has kind of been one of the biggest barriers, like not being able to shell into a container or SSH or easily get logs, things like that. They're for security, but it does make it harder, like, when you're actually having to solve issues with it. We do see a huge push in security. We just put out our container security survey. And so some things are being picked up really easily, like container scanning. I think they saw 83% are using it, but others are more difficult, such as image notary. 93% are not using that. Runtime security, 75% of our customers have no runtime security in place, right? So I think containers is kind of coming at a slope. The easier things are happening first, and then the more difficult ones, we'll see those later next year, probably.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting, that balance between security and then just hampering any sort of movement forward and debugging. So it's pretty interesting to see. I think a lot of enterprise customers have that issue where how do you educate your internally, right, on something new while keeping things secure. So there's that constant battle. Speaking of which, Katie, we talked a little bit about enterprise Kubernetes, and I think a little bit more about this push to hybrid, to on-prem and multi-cloud sort of setups, right? EKS, Anthos, Azure Arc. What are your thoughts on that from the CNCF standpoint in terms of allowing enterprise to have that functionality?
I think there's a lot of desire to see more enterprise companies and organizations joining the community. Most of the challenges they go through is to claim publicly maybe that they use open source. That actually can be quite a blocker for them to join the community. But overall, there's definitely a desire to see a bit more engagement from that side. And I think, especially in the last couple of years, there has been a real focus from the cloud native community, and especially the technology side, to focus on providing these enterprise-grade solutions for Kubernetes. It's not about how you start your Kubernetes clusters, how you manage them at scale, and most importantly, in a hybrid kind of solution as well, because most of the companies as well, they want to have something which they completely have full control of, and that's going to be usually on-prem, and then they will run some of the services in a public cloud provider as well. And I think there are a couple of projects that I would like to mention overall that really did make a stance or a big step towards this particular direction. I think Cluster API has really changed the way we think about clusters overall from ground up. They are promoting the idea of a cluster as a CRD, or customer source definition, which means you can manage it using any kind of templating tool on top of it. For example, Helm or Customize. Pretty much you can template your infrastructure. You can even introduce a tool such as GitOps to completely even see your infrastructure like as objects and how they do reconcile different changes in between them as well. And another thing which I would like to mention, I think, which made a lot of kind of noise on Twitter when it was announced, but I think K8s distro was a very big step in provisioning the Kubernetes enterprise-grade solution as well, and mostly because I think K8s has been used by many organizations. There is already a confidence level, and being able to use an open source version of that, and actually seeing that AWS does have this interest in collaborating more with open source and actually distributing more to the community, it's a great step, as I mentioned. And yeah, I think with K8s distro, again, it's open source. People already have something which has been tested. People have something which has been tested at scale, which is quite important. But at the same time, it enables you to have that hybrid solution where you would be able to run in a public cloud provider if you choose so, and you'll be able to run it on-prem as well. And I think there has been already quite a lot of initiatives from the GitOps community. We've already have a GitOps solution for their public cloud provider. Let me say that again. And they already have a solution between Flux and K8s distro, which is great because it pretty much got announced during a day after, which is great to actually see this kind of initiatives moving fast and being very responsive to some of these contributions and open source from big companies overall.
Yeah, that's awesome. I have heard one of the big critiques of the multi-cloud is just opening up the attack surface, right? So switching kind of that great analysis to a little bit more security focused, since, coming from a security background, I'm going to naturally do that. I want to throw a question out to Jonah. Being a contributor to the Falco project, what are, and especially since security is heating up, what are your thoughts on eBPF moving into 2020? Places for people to get started to learn a little bit more about eBPF and just, your general thoughts.
Yeah, definitely. And you're right. I think the attack surface opening is a big worry that people have. And in case people aren't familiar with what eBPF is, I think it stands for like the Extended Berkeley Packet Filter. It was originally used to monitor network traffic. And so the Falco project has some history, actually. So the founder of the project actually invented this other tool called Wireshark back in the day. And then he kind of created Falco, and they have some open source engineers who work on Falco. And so eBPF, so the network tool, got kind of turned into the virtual, or the extended, which is launching a virtual machine. Mm-hmm. So now it's able to interface with like the Linux syscalls. And so we see that as extremely important, because when you talk about containers are sharing namespaces with the host. And that means that the host is actually able to figure out what's going on in the container because it's actually talking through these namespaces. So if you can get eBPF data on the host, or vice versa, if you can get it on the container, then you can kind of figure out what's going on, right? And so when we talk about some of our abstracted tools at AWS, such as like Fargate or Lambda, people want eBPF data. And we hear that, and we're working on trying to get a way to distribute that out. In addition, when you use just general EC2 solutions, such as like K8s, right? We're seeing that more and more solutions are starting to harvest that data and provide it back, right? So put some sort of filtering and display on it. And so this is definitely being a trend. I think that in 2021, you're going to see a lot more solutions come out, and eBPF will be a prime kind of use case. I can honestly see it being used for more than security, just in the general telemetry space as well, kind of going forward.
Yeah, awesome. You need to submit your KubeCon talk for next year right now. Get it ready.
We will see.
Yeah. I mean, talking about visualization and monitoring, being an SRE at Elastic, Jessica, curious on some of your thoughts that you've seen with Elastic, because obviously Elastic really branches out in terms of visualization tool to almost everything, right? And I did see, chaos engineering and a little bit from the talk with Ian Coldwater and folks come up at KubeCon. So I'm curious about, your thoughts on the prediction for next year and testing in Kubernetes and chaos engineering as a topic.
So actually, I'm really excited about this one. I was glad to see Liz Rice bring this up as like, this is the new thing that's going to happen. This is going to be our pattern, seeing as I get paid pretty regularly to be chaotic. I know there was kind of a minimal focus over time, and it was mostly Netflix and a couple of, I think I found one that was basically like a video game where you can shoot your own pods down. I can't remember the name of that one, but it was pretty entertaining. I do think we all should start working closer on chaos engineering, just for the simple fact that, like, you never know when you're going to need DR. You never know when something's going to happen. And so knowing that you can go around day by day and like no one sees it coming, oh, hey, I'm shooting your pods down. Oh no, I took the control plane away. Like, let's see what we can do today. And so knowing that this is going to be one of the things that we're going to be focusing on in the upcoming year just sounds like a great thing. I mean, that's what I get paid for. I love it in general, but that's just me. I'm pretty sure everybody else is annoyed with me going, oh, hey, everything's gone. Oops. So that's what I've got.
That's funny. Have you used this in a production cluster? I'm just curious.
Which one? Because I've used the Netflix version, the KubeMonkey.
I guess any of them. I was just
So yes. And there's a couple different ways I've done this, and one of them was pretty dramatic and completely by accident, where I took an entire cluster away. Just like, oops, this happened. How quickly can we return it? Because I was having a bad morning. And I will say, locally in my own personal server, I have done some of the video game based chaos engineering to see, what happens when I shoot these pods down. Will my own personal CI/CD go down? Will it recover properly? Like, do we need more statefulness behind it? Do we need more storage behind it? Like, let's see how well we come back. And it has proven useful, where I've had storage not return and, oh, hey, we need to go back and fix this. So yeah, super exciting. I do love breaking things.
Who doesn't? I feel like DNS is the original chaos engineering.
Oh my god, I have tails. Yeah.
Oh, that's too funny. It's like breaking plates in 2020, just chaos engineering.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Just kind of running out of time, but I want to wrap it up with just general thoughts. 2 questions for you guys. What do you see the CNCF community and Kubernetes as a whole? What do you think they could be doing a little bit better? And what are you looking forward to in 2021, other than finally doing this in person? Hopefully, fingers crossed. Well, yeah, I'll kick it out we'll go to Jessica first.
As far as doing better, I think the larger scale of the education this year was the one thing I wanted to see, and it has happened. I have had problems here and there with documentation. I'm glad that we're starting to fix that part. As far as what I'm looking forward to, one of the keynote from Liz Rice was her prediction on, like, things are going to fail, but as part of our governance and incubation, things will get better, which I completely believe in failure-driven development, right? You need to fail to be successful. That's what makes it the best possible application. So
and
that's what I'm excited about.
To help out when it fails too, right? Like,
yeah,
it's actually learning and grow, right? That's
the best type of learning. So
yeah, definitely coming from an SRE too, right? So
yeah,
that's awesome. Jonah, thoughts?
Yeah, I would say that the thing it did really well is I feel like the working groups are definitely a lower barrier to entry, it feels like. I just started attending the test infra, but I help out Prow on all the Falco stuff, so I've done all that stuff for them and with them and stuff. But it definitely feels like it's nice. You can just kind of subscribe to a mailing list and jump in a call and just kind of get started. Obviously, you still have to figure out Bazil build, and that's a whole nother beast. But but yeah, it definitely feels like the barrier to entry. Like any kind of person can kind of just get in and get started, and that's awesome. So
yeah, and CNCF, like, you started, there's a mentee mentorship program and call that got started. So there's a bunch of different initiatives that are out there, and I think it's awesome to see the community grow and actually kind of find the niche, right? Because originally, 5 years ago, it was kind of just Kubernetes, and then it was whatever the next hot thing was. Last year, it was service mesh. So it's interesting to see the different kind of sectors take off, right?
Definitely. And as far as things I think it could do better, I know Bazil is supposed to always work on every machine, but I've actually had the opposite effect. It's never worked on any machine. So I would love if they just ditch that, but.
That's funny. Katie, yeah, we'll give it to you to wrap up.
Yeah, there are actually a couple of things I wanted to mention that I think did go well. Besides being 2020, I think the community really did come together, and just having virtual KubeCons, that was, for me personally, I really enjoyed them. Maybe not at the scale on having that in-person maybe chat or a coffee, which is quite impromptu, but still I think it was a good way to get with the community together. I think the security aspect of the Cloud Native has been mentioned quite a few times today, and I would like to maybe highlight that the security white paper has been released by the SIG Security or the CNCF, which I definitely recommend to read. I think it's a very comprehensive, well-covering white paper, so definitely have it on your list maybe before Christmas or after Christmas. And another thing that I'd like to mention is the educational aspect, which was mentioned as well. There is the new K8s, which is the Kubernetes certified security specialist, I think, which actually it's a good way to benchmark or maybe even make yourself aware of some of the basic security concepts that you need to cover within a cluster. And I think what has been done well in this in the community overall, I really like the Kubernetes community's responsiveness to the amount of releases you could have in a year. I think 2020 has been quite intense to everyone's work-life balance, and they reduced the amount of releases just to make sure that the organizations have enough time to consume new releases and, more importantly, to upgrade and make sure that they make the best of the new features as well. So I think this has been done very, very well, and I would like to kind of I'm actually hoping, and I would like to see this continuing in the next year as well. I think one thing that we could do better in the community is over communication. So I think there is, for example, when the Docker shim was support was deprecated, there was slight panic. But if that would be maybe communicated just in front or like just before the release would be put together or the issues they wanted to work on, I think that kind of buffer some of this panic. But I think this is already something which is on the radar for the Kubernetes team, so they are looking into that. And in terms of tooling, some very good kind of areas has been mentioned so far. So the other thing that I would like to see a bit more diversified, I would say, is the edge part of our cloud native ecosystem. I think there has been good projects which has reached the incubation level, such as KubeEdge, I think. But I would like kind of to see a bit more of this usage. How can we have a lighter version of our infrastructure in different spots to make sure that we have that customer proximity and we have that like higher customer engagement as well. So I think it's going to be great here, and I really hope some of the conferences are going to be in person again, just for the coffee, honestly.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Yeah, okay. I completely agree. Especially you start to see these, hybrid clusters and different way of managing multiple different clusters. That the edge is going to become more important. And I think, the running joke that I've heard so many times is it's like K3s then K0s, and we're going to go into the K negatives, right? So, yeah, that's awesome. And shameless plug, but I am taking the CKS in a couple weeks, and I'm doing a whole write up on it. So if you want to learn a little bit more about security, come check out my blog. I got a whole repo showcasing questions and answers. So looking for feedback on that. And just wrapping it up, I wanted to thank you guys for jumping on and giving your feedback. I do had a lot of fun with you guys. I want to give a shout out to our partners. So we have AWS, thanks Jonah. We have CloudBees, CodeFresh, MyData, Red Hat, StackRox, and Trilio, who are all partners today, making this happen for you guys. So again, thanks to them. we're giving away big gift cards, $250 Amazon gift cards. There's 10 of them for this event. So if you're going to tables, engaging with people, we're basically paying you to come talk to us and come grab coffee and hang out. So yeah, get those gift cards and join in the tables. And we look forward to seeing you guys. And just to wrap up, I hope everybody has a safe and happy holiday season. And thanks again to the panelists. Look forward to seeing you in the new year.